This fallen dog spent 2 years trapped in a shelter, enduring a life of misery. But then, something incredible happened when she caught the scent of someone she recognized. Pakita was a beautiful, large brown dog with a strong resemblance to a chocolate lab. However, she had a tendency to explore her surroundings and often managed to escape. Despite her owner, Ariel Navarro's best efforts to keep her contained, she would slip out while he was at work and return by the time he got home, so it never seemed like a major issue. Neighbors often mistook her for a friendly dog looking for playtime when they spotted her outside. Although Ariel tried to keep her in the yard with a leash, she was well cared for by local kids who played fetch with her and left out food and water. As many Labrador owners know, they are quite clever, and Pakita eventually outsmarted Ariel to make her escape. Pakita was a familiar sight in the neighborhood until one day she spotted a squirrel and took off after it. She lost track of how far she had run, and when she turned around, the landscape felt unfamiliar. Fearful and exhausted, she wandered further away from home. Remembering that her neighbors usually had water available, she attempted to enter a few backyards, but this time the homeowner simply shooed her away. When she approached a group of children playing outside, they ran off in fright, terrified of the large dog. Pakita must have felt disheartened, as these people didn't recognize her, despite her usual friendly encounters. The dog was considered a nuisance by many of the locals. One of them decided that it would be best to have the brown dog removed, especially since some children were hurling rocks at Pakita. They were concerned that the dog could no longer stay in the area without risk. Pakita came to them without difficulty when they called her. These folks then brought her to the Arca Animal Shelter, an excellent sanctuary that genuinely cares about the animals brought to them. The puppy immediately caught the attention of Sylvia Farah, one of the volunteers at the shelter. By the time Pakita arrived at the shelter, she had gloomy eyes and had lost faith in people. The once content canine refused to form relationships with any of the shelter staff. She would just move away and maintain her distance when Sylvie tried to pet her. Being extremely timid, Pakita had no desire to join another family because she was certain that her special someone was out there missing her. She didn't need to find a new family, she just needed to get home. Even still, the staff at the shelter made every effort to encourage Pakita to open up because they genuinely wanted her to be adopted. Every time they attempted to match Pakita with a family that came to the shelter seeking a dog, Pakita would never play or interact with them. Like a fearful child wanting to hide behind their mother, she would just remain behind the volunteer from the shelter who was introducing them. She avoided her caregivers the rest of the time, but that would be the one occasion when she trusted them. The family kept sending Pakita for younger puppies or canines who were just more amiable. They attempted to socialize the dog for 2 years, but she refused to participate. Pakita retreated and cowered in a corner, attempting to shrink as small as possible whenever Sylvia or any volunteer attempted to pat her. This was not a sociable dog. Her only desire was to be left in peace and quiet. As time passed, Pakita didn't come out of her shell. On the contrary, her depression only worsened. After 2 years, Sylvia and her co-workers realized they had to give it another shot. Their intention was to use social media to promote Pakita and encourage others to visit with the goal of adopting the dejected girl. They could alert others to her lack of social skills and hope that someone would be open to adopting her. However, they could hardly acquire a photo of her to put online. She would tilt her head aside and avoid making eye contact every time they attempted to take a picture. She looked depressed, but they were hoping for a different photo, just one great shot of her gorgeous face to make someone fall in love. It took some time, but eventually, after several tries, they succeeded in getting one passable photo in the hopes that it might encourage someone to step forward and adopt Pakita. They shared it on social media. If she lived in a house instead of the shelter, they believed her depression would lessen. Pakita could have to spend the remainder of her days in the shelter, so this was her final chance to find a place to call home. It would still be very sad, but they would care about her. Then an amazing thing occurred. Ariel Navarro's mother recognized her child from the article and realized it was Ariel. He didn't have the heart to adopt a new dog because he had been searching for Pakita for 2 years. He simply couldn't give up on Pakita, as it would feel like he was giving up on her. He had been out looking for his lost dog a lot, but he had never found her. Knowing how depressed he was, his mother looked through the social media accounts of the many shelters in their city in hopes of finding Pakita there. She hoped for the best, but she didn't really think it would come to that. She was now certain that the dog she was observing was Pakita, their own dog. However, the dog looked a lot sadder than when she lived with them. Her greatest concern was that when she called the shelter, they would inform her that Pakita had already found a new home. Fortunately, Pakita was still with the shelter staff, who were quite happy to hear from her. Although they couldn't be certain, Sylvia and the other volunteers really hoped that Pakita would get the happy ending she so well deserved. There remained the possibility that Pakita might have so many emotional scars from her years at the shelter that she would fail to recognize them, or that Ariel and his mother would arrive at the shelter and discover that this was not their dog at all. It was a frightening scenario with no guarantee of success. Ariel wanted to see Pakita the moment he learned that his mother believed she had located her. The two proceeded to the shelter. The staff took Pakita out to visit them. But things didn't go as they had intended. Someone was documenting the interaction, thinking that Pakita would quickly be pleased and happy to see her humans, but that didn't happen at all. It's critical to keep in mind that she was a dejected and injured dog. It's possible that she didn't trust what she saw. All their worries seemed to be coming to fruition, much like countless other families who had tried to adopt. Ariel and Pakita stood behind the shelter volunteer who had brought her outside, reluctant to approach the frightened dog. Despite Ariel's firm belief that this was his beloved pet, she showed no signs of recognition. However, he was determined not to give up. After 2 long years, he had finally found her, and he was ready to show her that she was loved, even if she didn't remember him. He called out her name as he settled in front of her. Slowly, she approached, sniffing him, and suddenly her demeanor changed. She recognized his scent. In an instant, the forlorn dog transformed, bouncing with excitement and greeting Ariel with enthusiastic licks. It was a truly unforgettable reunion that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Their bond was still strong, and it always would be. More than a year later, Ariel shared that Pakita had never tried to escape again, and their relationship had only deepened. They were committed to ensuring they would never be apart again, as they had become inseparable. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comment section. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.